wants you. We can bring it on the floor. Never danced like this before. We don't talk about it.
Hey guys, what is cracking? We are back today with another episode of Pokemon Team Building University. Today we're going to be going over the balanced archetype. This is a great archetype, and so let's get right into the facts about it. They utilize defensive tanky Pokemon for most of the game, well, not even most, but like to prevent opponents' offense from getting traction. It's going to be used through things such as walls, defensive pivots, or even offensive pivots at times. Just really utilizing switches to and just defensive Pokemon that are effectively able to check offense, such as sweepers and tanks and wall breakers, so that they can't gain too much traction and punch too many holes. Because this is a more defensive art, it has some defensive elements as well as some offensive elements. It does value keeping all of the Pokemon alive to fill the roles that they need. Forcing opponent switches allows the team to gain chip damage for important KOs later on. This is going to be through things such as status, toxic burns, or even spikes and stealth rocks. This is the first archetype. Because it's a more offensive archetype, it's able to turn momentum around through usage of pivots, hoping to ultimately aim for a peak in offensive pressure via sweeper or tank. This is finally where we start introducing the concept of a win condition in True Balance. For further information on win conditions, be sure to check out my other video. I've covered that in a I hope is a good video. I don't know. If you have any questions about what a win condition is, definitely go check that out there and ask me a question in the comment section. I'll be happy to help you out with it. So ultimately, because this is the first playstyle that we can consider on the offensive spectrum, we're now aiming for what is considered how we're going to win. Because a lot of the times with more defensive teams, it's not about how you're going to win more than how you're going to stop your opponent from winning. But now you're thinking, how are you going to win? So while you're making these good defensive switches, hopefully, and being able to stop your opponent's pressure happening, you're hopefully chipping away at things, killing the things that need to be removed. Let's say you need to remove Ferrothorn before your Altaria can sweep. That's kind of what you're doing. You're kind of making some good switches, and eventually you're aiming for that one win condition, which is going to be either probably a sweeper, tank, wall breaker, some kind of offensive Pokemon. It's also considered the best introductory archetype, and that's because it offers newer players both a chance to learn about the defensive aspects of the game as well as the offensive aspects of the game, being able to the best mix of both. And it's also the most versatile creative team archetype, probably the most common, because it has the most opportunities for different types of building. It's going to offer you the most as far as what you're going to be able to do. It's not really focused on one specific style, either defense or offense. Elements of the team. Remember, these elements of the team are carried on a lot from one episode to the other, because we're moving down from the spectrum of defense to offense. You're going to be carrying on a lot of this Pokemon. While more defensive-oriented roles will be removed and more offensive variant roles will be added. So first of all, we're going to start with the physical wall. There's going to be a strong physically defensive Pokemon capable of taking hits from physical attackers that would threaten the team. Very important for honestly, probably one of the most important roles on any balance team is a good physical wall that can sponge the hits that nothing else can take. A special wall is a strong specialty defensive Pokemon capable of taking on special attackers that would threaten the team. A lot of good balance teams will focus on having a strong defensive backbone and then having some teeth to lash out with. Slightly more than bulky balanced would. So sometimes what you're going to see is like a Venutran or a Veno Hippocore, Mega Venusaur plus a Hippocore, and then some strong pivots, like let's say a Volt Turn core such as defensive Lando and defensive Rotom, and then from there you'll see a sweeper and like a tank or something. So let's say maybe like a Clefable, Tank Fable, and maybe a Mega Scizor or something. That's an example of a prime balanced team. But a Cleric is going to be a Pokemon that is able to support the team by offering an important role such as Wish Passing or a status healing move. Balance is a playstyle because there's so many roles that you'd like to be able to fill on a balanced team. It's going to be a playstyle where ideally you're going to want to really start combining roles. So a Pokemon such as Sylveon or Chansey is able to simultaneously fill both the role of a Cleric and a Spadef wall. So with that, you might want to think about combining the roles wherever possible. Utility leads are something new that we're not introduced in the bulky balance playstyle. But it's a balance team's highly valued leads that are capable of giving forms of utility, such as hazards and status, to the team. Things like Thunder Wave, Sticky Webs, Galvantula that really offer some speed control early on in the battle, or even Ferrothorn and Klefki, Spike stacking, your Stealth Rock stacking, T-Wave, dual screens, all that kind of stuff, even rain support. For further information, all the roles that I'm going over right now have been covered in previous episodes of Team Building University. So if you have any questions about that, be sure, if you have any questions about like a specific path you want to take, definitely consider looking into those videos, and they'll hopefully be able to help you out. Again, if you have any more questions, feel free to leave me a comment. I'll be sure to get back to you. But yeah, so you're going to be able to have some kind of advantage over your opponent, be it through the use of utility, and that's going to be things like Stealth Rocks, Spikes, Toxic Spikes, Sticky Webs, or field. It's really just field control in general. So Sticky Webs, and then Rain, Sun, Sand, I guess Hail. Don't ever use Hail, please. Honestly, maybe don't even use Sun. And so through that, and then dual screen support is the other thing. All three of these Pokemon are great for the other things that come to mind. Are going to be things like Tentacruel, Espeon, honestly, so many Pokemon, Skarmory, so many Pokemon come in like to dual. Like for example, Ferrothorn and Skarmory double as both a physical wall and a utility lead, and then you could run like a Sylveon to double as a special wall and a Cleric. So that's like a cool way you can double up your defensive core. A Hazard Clear is going to be really important because you focus heavily on switches, especially early on in the match. Keeping hazards off the field with Defog, Rapid Spin is important for easier switches. Things like Starmie, Tentacruel, and Skarmory are really great for this. If you want to go a more offensive Defogger role, you could get, or Rapid Spinner role, you could definitely opt for Choice Scarf, Excadrill, or Velatis. Those are great options as well. A defensive pivot is going to be a really useful mon. A defensive pivot can be useful for scouting switches, gaining chip damage, and spreading status. All three of these Pokemon are prime example, and they all abuse the switcher mechanic in one form or another. Slowbro is able to take advantage of Regenerator to continuously gain back its health, making it very hard to whittle down. Ferrothorn with Iron Barb is able to really force a lot of physical attackers to take damage that they don't want to take. And then Leech Seed is able to switch out and give Leech Seed healing to a teammate. And then Rotom is able to use Volt Switch, Volt turning moves. Other options would be things like defensive Landorus or defensive Zapdos. We have offensive pivots. A defensive pivot can be used. Oh my god. I forgot to change that word. Defensive. I apologize, but it should say offensive. An offensive pivot can be useful for gaining shift damage and gaining momentum through aggressive switches. Things like Choice Scarf, Landorus, Life Orb, Tornadus, even Assault Vest, Tornadus can be considered offensive or defensive. And then things like Choice Specs, Assault Vest, or Life Orb, any item you want to run on Raikou. These three are prime examples, but there's a lot of other Pokemon that can be used as offensive switches. Offensive switches will really, really, really want to utilize Volt Turn, things like Scissor. And what they're really good for is getting heavy amounts of chip damage throughout the match and forcing a lot of pressure on your opponent, grabbing offensive pressure and momentum, and therefore shifting it in your favor throughout the match. Hopefully, being able to what they're really good for is shifting over that offensive pressure to help you kind of work towards that win condition that you're kind of eventually trying to get to. So let's say Raikou can Volt Switch into something to stop this. Raikou can Volt Switch into something. And that's something that you switch into stops your opponent's Pokemon, and that your opponent's Pokemon is the one Pokemon that stops your setup sweeper. Let's say you somehow manage to understand what I just said and coordinate that, get that all accomplished. Now your setup sweeper is ready to have a field day, and you can use a defensive slower pivot, and pivot into your sweeper and maybe get something from there. That's kind of where the role of pivots come in. A special tank is able to absorb hits and retaliate with hard special attacks. Things like Heatran, Tank Fable, and Hoopa Unbound are all very powerful. Hoopa Unbound honestly being kind of a wall breaker as well if you want to go down that road. But you're going to be able to do a lot of damage and really pack some punishment, which is honestly great. And it's a very important part of these games can be usage of tanks as well as physical tanks. Physical tanks is able to absorb hits and retaliate with strong physical attacks. Honestly, a lot of times when you don't have the defense to take on a certain Pokemon, you're going to rely on a tank to come in, sponge an attack, and dish out some damage. Tanks are a lot of fun to make good predictions with. If you can predict like a Gengar switching into a Drain Punch and click Knockoff or something, or Lottie or something, those are great. Yeah, tanks are very key in this role because they're able to kind of represent balanced as an archetype overall, if I'm being honest. They represent being able to take hits, sponging attacks when you need to, and then dishing back a lot of damage when you need to do that as well. So they are really like a key part, I feel like, of any good balance team. and they kind of represent also the reason why balanced teams tend to be slower, because all of these Pokemon, as you can see, maybe not Garchomp, but they're all pretty slow Pokemon. Finally, we get into the sweepers. So sweepers are Pokemon that haven't been utilized previously in any type of archetype that we've done thus far. A physical sweeper is able to boost up its attack and or speed to punch holes and dismantle teams. Mid-game or late-game, sweepers are able to just really kind of wreck the game and dominate with offensive pressure from there. Things like DD Dragonite, Dual Dance Lando, and Swords Dance, Sandrush, Excadrill, Life Orb are all prime examples of Pokemon that can really dish out some massive punishment to Pokemon that aren't teams that aren't prepared. Special sweepers being the counterpart. Special sweepers able to boost up its special attack and or speed, punch holes, and dismantle teams. You're going to see a lot more common physical sweepers rather than special sweepers, just because special sweepers actually have no good ways to boost speed. The only Pokemon that can boost its speed effectively in the special sweeper category being that I can think of is like Volcarona or just generally Quiver Dance users. So Swords Dance and Dragon Dance have a lot more like frequency, so it's a little easier. But things like Calm Mind Raikou, Calm Mind Keldeo, and Tailglow Manaphy are all really great special sweepers. One thing that I would like to talk about is that I don't, in fact, have any megas for this archetype. And that's because megas in the balanced archetype are really hard to define. I can't tell you need a defensive mega, or an offensive mega, or a setup sweeper mega. Like, a lot of teams will opt to run a setup sweeper, I will say. So such as Mega Scissor, or Mega Gallade, or Mega Pinsir in their Mega slot, because those tend to be the most powerful roles and what the team is really built around. But you could really run whatever kind of Mega you wanted as long as you felt like it fit the team. So when starting with a balanced team, I highly recommend you honestly start with your Mega and from there kind of shape the team around it. Because if you wanted to run Venusaur, Venusaur is a great Pokemon on balanced teams, and you could pair with a good defensive partner or a good offensive partner. Or you could run Mega Scissor and give it like a Kyurem Black, which is another great offensive partner. So from there, you're really going to want to pick what you're doing as far as that. So I didn't opt to give you a Mega, like Force Mega, because there's just so much you can do with balance, and we'd be here all day if I went over every single Mega possibility. Honestly, for offense in general, it's going to be a little harder for me to run, give you options for offensive Megas. But we have a team example here for you. This is a team that I'm actually a pretty big fan of. I laddered to around 1,600. It's obviously not perfect, but it peaked around 1,600 for me, which honestly is pretty good. So it's built around Dragon Dance Mega Altaria. I think this Dragon Dance Altaria is running Fire Blast so that it can take on Ferrothorns, which otherwise this team has really like no good answers to. So it's Dragon Dance Altaria with 3 attacks. We got Choice Scarf Landers being an awesome offensive pivot, along with Rapid Spin Starmie, because this team has so much pivot action and Altaria is weak to rock. Prior to Mega Evolution, Starmie is able to offer great spinning action. Again, Landorus is able to offer great just pivoting action, really powerful attacks, knockoff, able to spam knockoff. Conkeldurr is a great physical tank, and with great coverage comes great responsibility. But Conkeldurr is a great Pokemon overall, especially in low ladder situations, I find. It's able to honestly it's so reliable. It dishes a lot of damage and sponges a lot of attacks on the special side. Raikou completes a solid Volt Turn combination with Landorus. These two lion things are able to just keep bouncing around, do some damage, switch into what the things that you need to switch in. Finally, have a physically defensive utility lead, Ferrothorn running Rocks, which is able to kind of just keep some offensive pressure, some defensive pressure stopping on the opponent. It's a pretty solid team. It's not perfect. As I said earlier, if you don't run Fire Blast on Altaria, you're going to be super weak to Ferrothorn. The team's also pretty much bait to a lot of higher offensive Pokemon, as the only real anything faster than Starmie and Raikou that could take on Landorus will honestly become a problem very fast for you. Things like I guess not necessarily Alakazam, but I don't know. That's what comes to mind. Lopunny, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I really enjoy doing these, so I'm going to keep trying to keep them up. I don't know how many episodes we're going to have left of Team Building University, so if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. As always, like, rate, comment, subscribe. It's always extremely appreciated. If you have anything you want to see, let me know, but I will see you guys later. Until then, Kraken Nation out. Look at Pokemon. We're going to switch back out into this male. We're going to gonna switch back out into everyone's gonna get experience. We gotta bring out the Ender of Souls.